right, everyone, welcome. My name is Hallie, and I'm here today teaching a class called Find Your Balance. And this class is dedicated to finding balance both physically and mentally. Here at Mind Movement, we really like to emphasize the connection between our mind and our body and work on that connection throughout our movement practice. So this class is really dedicated to connecting that sensation of balance in your body and connecting it mentally to various topics that we will be covering throughout the class. And mostly we're going to be talking about support. And so I hope that you will be able to find a sense of support physically from the ground, from your feet, from your abdominal engagement, and we'll talk a lot more about that through class. And then I invite you to really think about the different ways that you can find support in your own life for yourself, for your friends and family, especially during these times, these uncertain times of COVID. So we're going to be really focusing on that concept of support, and I'll be bringing it up throughout all of the movement that we are going through. And just see if you can really focus on how you're feeling that sense of support, how you feel when the support is taken away. We'll be working with movement and poses and postures, taking away certain balancing aspects and support systems in our body. And so we'll be working with that feeling of how we can strengthen ourselves to really work through those moments in our lives when we lose a support system. So for instance, right now, during COVID, it's so uncertain what's going to happen in the future, and so it feels like we have a lot of imbalances in our life. So today we're going to be working on trying to find that balance and that support system within ourselves, so that way we can feel confident and a little bit more grounded on an everyday basis. So that all being said, what we're going to work on first is some breath work. So I encourage you to sit up on a yoga block if you'd like. I'm going to put it between my feet, and it's just nice to have your hips a little bit raised above your knees. So if you'd like to do that, or sit on a pillow, like a meditation pillow or something, feel free to do so. Now we're going to take our palms and place them down on our thighs, and we're going to hold them here facing down, because that helps us have just a little bit more of a sense of grounding in our body with our palms down. And so just take a few moments here, sitting up nice and tall, feeling the legs connect with the floor, your sit bones connect with the floor or the yoga block, and how that position and those places in your body where you do have connection, that is your support system here in this tall posture. Now, in order to elevate that support system up through your body, try to notice if you can elongate your spine. Imagine someone has a string on the top of your head. It's connected to the very top center of your head, and they're pulling it straight up toward the ceiling or the sky. So you have a big sense of elevation all the way from your tailbone through the crown of your head. Good. And just notice what that feels like to have that sense of grounding, and at the same time, that sense of elevation and lift. And now let's take a big inhale through the nose and start to notice your breath. And exhale through the mouth. Just take it slow at first, breathing deep into the body. Exhale, pushing all the air out. This is your time to really tune in with yourself after a day of working from home, or maybe a day of stressful activities outside. It's always good to just come back to your breath so you can really be in this moment with yourself, and our workout becomes more of a moving meditation and an duration of the breath. So if there's ever a point during this workout where you feel like you need it, you can pause and just tune into your inhales and exhales. Awesome. Take 3 more rounds of breath together, inhaling through the nose, exhaling through the mouth. Good. 2 more like that. Inhale and exhale. 1 more big breath in. Big breath out. Good. And then you can blink your eyes open if they were closed. Let's take a big breath and reaching the arms up overhead. Good. And then exhale, arms just float back down to the sides. Let's do that 2 more times. Inhale. Exhale. Good. 1 more. Exhale. Good. If you're sitting on top of the yoga block, go ahead, just move it off to the side. And now we're going to come onto hands and knees. And we're going to move our spine, slowly undulating from flexion into extension, working a segmentation of our vertebrae. So let's go into flexion first, rounding the spine as much as you can, dropping your tailbone down, head releases, pull the rib cage in. Take a big breath here. See if you can push out of the floor a little more. Good. And then start from your tailbone. Slowly sending your tailbone up, working your way up each vertebrae into extension. Your chest will begin to open up toward the front of your mat. Head lifts up last. Find a nice big breath here as your extension really still pushing out of the floor with both hands. And then slowly drop your tailbone down. Taking your time to slowly round each vertebrae all the way back into your spinal flexion. Good. We'll do that 2 more times and just notice the weight bearing down into both hands. Is that weight distribution even? The weight into your knees? Are they directly below your hips? How can we find that stable base of support even in these more simple poses and positions? Good. 1 more round of our segmentation. Becoming more aware of how your spine can move will help you with dynamic movement. So really taking the time to feel out each movement of your vertebrae is super important for advancing your movement capacity and being pain-free. Ground your spine again here. Take a big breath in. Big breath out. Good. And then go ahead, come to a nice straight spine. We're going to start to move into an asymmetrical position. So I want you to take one leg straight back behind you. And we're just going to hold here for a moment, bracing our abdominal wall, dropping our tailbone down. Good. Push out of the floor. Notice that your body might want to lean into the opposite side of the leg that's straight. Try to keep most of your weight in the center. And the arm of the leg that's straight is really heavy, so there's a lot of weight in that shoulder. Now from here, we're going to lift the back leg, the straight leg up and hold. So with 3 lifts on the ground, we have a little bit of anti-rotation work going on. Even though this is super simple, you want to feel those obliques engage, the outside of the hips and glutes engage in order to lift the leg without opening up the hips to side. So take another moment. Make sure your hips are square to the floor. Good. Take 1 more breath. And now reach the opposite arm forward. So this is our bird dog position. We're going to balance here for 3 breaths. See if you can keep your abdominal wall really fired up as you hold. 2 more breaths. Inhale through the nose. Exhale through the mouth. 1 more. Inhale, reach long. Exhale. other side, we're just gonna come up into a tall kneeling position, reach our arms forward. We're gonna move through some scapula rotations. So you're gonna reach your shoulder blades forward, glide them up toward your ears, squeeze them back, and then glide them down. Do that 2 more in that direction. Forward, up, back, down. 1 more time. Reach forward, glide up, squeeze back, glide down. Good. Push forward again, pause. And now we're going to reverse for 3 rounds. So you're going to squeeze back, glide up, push forward, glide down. 2 more. Back, up, forward, down. 1 more time. Squeeze back, glide up, push forward, glide down. Nice. All right, friends. Now we're going to come back on the hands and knees. And we're going to work with that same bird dog position on the other side. So make sure your hands are directly underneath your shoulders, knees are underneath hips, and then send one leg straight back, the opposite leg you had before, straight back behind your hip. Now drop your tailbone down and use those lower abs to brace and stabilize, and then we're lifting the top straight leg. We're holding here, trying not to shift our weight into the opposite side of the straight leg. Keep that arm pretty heavy, pushing out of the ground. Good. Now we're going to lift the opposite arm and reach out through the fingers, reach out through that heel of your straight leg foot, and hold. 3 breaths. Take your time to stabilize. Notice how it feels to have 2 limbs up off the ground. And you need to ground down into the floor with your other hand and your other knee. 1 more breath. Good. Exhale, lower it down. Awesome. And now come up onto your knees, your tall kneeling position again. Now we're just going to move through a little hip hinge, working on the stability in our abdominals as we hinge our hips back. So I want you to take a big inhale to reach your arms up overhead. As you exhale, you're going to sweep your arms back, lengthening your chest forward, hips reach back toward your heels. Reach back up, inhale. Exhale, hinge, reach your chest forward. Good, let's do that 3 more times. Inhale, and exhale. And just notice how the weight change in your hips will really alter how you can engage your abdominals to make sure that you're counterbalancing with the hip hinge. Good. 1 more time. Inhale, reach up. Exhale, hinge. And then inhale, just stand nice and tall again. Good, guys. Okay, so from here, we're going to go through that little sequence 1 more time, starting with the bird dog. So bring your hands underneath your shoulders, knees underneath your hips. We're going to send 1 leg straight back behind us again. Notice how just right away you have that sense of asymmetrical positioning. So you need to really engage your obliques and your abs in order to counterbalance. Now lift the back leg straight up, hold, reach the front arm, opposite arm forward, hold. Can you pull in more with your abdominals and your rib cage? Engage that back leg's hamstring. Push out of your rounded arms shoulder. Make sure you're not sinking into that scap. Good. Holding here. Awesome. Now from here, you're going to lower the hands, keeping the leg up. This time, we're going to reach the leg out to the side. Notice how that changes things. You might want to lean to the opposite direction. Try not to. Try to keep your foot lifted off the ground as you sweep it all the way back. Good. We're going to do that 2 more times. Adding this little advanced variation, reaching the leg out to the side. Try to keep the foot lifted off the floor. If it has to touch down, that's okay. Good. 1 more. Try to keep everything steady. Sweep it back again. Lower the foot, lower the knee. onto your tall kneeling position again. This time we're going to go through the little hip hinge pattern. Inhale, reaching up. Exhale, hinge. Good. 4 more. Inhale. Lengthen. Exhale, hips go back, chest inclines forward. Moving with your breath. 2 more. Last one. Good. Come up to that tall kneeling position again. Okay, and now we're going to come back onto hands and knees. Actually, I'll turn around so you guys can see my right hip a little bit better during this fun variation with the abduction of the hip. Okay, so right leg's going to go straight back. Drop your tailbone down. Raise your abdominal wall. Lift the leg up. Hold. And now from here, reach the opposite arm forward. We're holding here for 3 breaths. Trying to notice if our body wants to compensate by leaning into the opposite direction or opening up our pelvis to the side. We want to try to keep those hips square to the ground and stabilize through the front arm shoulder. Good. Take 1 more breath here. Lower the hands. Good. Keep the leg lifted. Reach the leg out to the side. Try to rotate your toes forward as you bring your foot out to the side. Keeping the foot lifted. Sweep it all the way back. Good. Try to notice if anything else wants to change in your body as you sweep the leg out to the right. Can you keep your weight distributed with this sense of counterbalance using your obliques? Good. 1 more. Reaching the leg all the way out to the side as far as you can. Try to keep it lifted. And sweep it back. Good. And lower it down. Nice. Go ahead, take a moment off of your hands. If you want to take backs of your palms together for a little wrist relief stretch, go for it. It always feels nice after being on your hands for a while. Good. Okay, my friends. From here, we're going to stand up next. In order to stand up, we're going to work through a little movement pattern to get up from the floor. So, from here, we're going to step 1 foot forward. Opposite arm can come forward with it. You're going to push that front foot down into the ground. Come up all the way to stand. You're going to reverse it down and come all the way back down with your bum on your heels. Might seem very simple, but just know that it's pretty challenging to stand up on that foot and not put the back leg down onto the floor. So if you can, let's try to work with that sense of imbalance. And we're going to go for about 60 seconds alternating legs. Just take your time to move through the pattern as well as you can. Here we go. Let's go. 1 foot forward. Now press down through that front foot. Come all the way up to stand. You can drive the knee up or maybe just hover it a little bit off the ground. Now reaching back into that lunge. Hips go all the way back to your heels and switch. Opposite foot forward. Press up. Good. Notice what your body tends to do as you stand on one leg. We don't often stand just on one leg throughout the day. Average person maybe shifts a little bit of weight, but notice how it feels to put all of that stability into one hip, into one glute. Good. Keep going, moving with your breath. We have about 10 seconds left. We're going through this slowly right now, but trust me, we're going to get it faster in the next round. So just take this time to move slowly. Good. Almost done. Finish your last rep. Good. And now do 1 more just to stand all the way up. Once you have that foot up off the ground, you can just set it back down, bringing your feet hip-width distance, facing square to the front of your mat. Let's hold here for a few breaths. Bring your arms down by your side. And I want you to just slowly shift your weight forward and shift your weight back into your heels. So we're just playing with the weight change. Forward into the balls of the feet. Maybe the heels lift up a little bit. Back into your heels. toes lift up maybe. If you need to use your arms to help counterbalance, feel free to do so. But see if you can keep your abdominals activated in order to help you stabilize. You can notice how this weight change, ever so slightly, really throws off your balance and really challenges the anterior and posterior muscular chains of your body to engage quickly and stabilize you. Good, take a few more, maybe getting a little bit higher with your heels up off the ground as you reach your weight forward into the balls of your feet, and then shifting back. Good, do that 2 more times, getting up with the heels if you can, lowering down with control, shifting your weight back, and then 1 more. Get up to your tallest position that you can, really reaching the heels off the ground, whoop, and then lower down. Good, shake it out. Shake out your legs. Nice. All right, my friends. Now we're going to work on a side lunge variation. And this is to really help us work on our hip stability and the concept of removing one base of support, right? Your support system in your one leg is really going to be challenged by taking the other foot off the ground. So we're going to set up in a little bit of a wider stance. So feet are just a few inches wider than your hips. Doesn't have to be super wide, but the wider that you go, the more challenging it will be. What we're going to do is shift our weight into one hip, bending into that knee, and now try to shift so much weight over that you can take almost all of the weight off of your opposite foot. Good. You should feel a lot of that glute start to fire up and stabilize. And now keeping your abdominal wall braced, you're going to slowly lift that leg just a few inches off the ground and then lower it back down. Good. Lift it up and lower. Just 8 more reps here. You can exhale as you lift. Inhale as you lower. Good. And notice how you can really pull everything into engagement in order to stabilize with one foot floating with control up and down off of the floor. Not easy. If you feel like this is super easy, maybe try shifting more weight over to your grounded leg and more weight back into your glute. 2 more reps. Squeeze and lift with the outside of that hip and glute. Last one. Good. And rest. Woo! Shake that out. Okay. And now we're going to just switch over to the other leg. So find a little bit wider stance. Shift your weight into that other hip, hinging back. I'll actually turn just a little bit so you guys can see I'm in a hip hinge. My chest is slightly forward, just like we did in the kneeling position. And now you're going to exhale, lift that other leg up, float it down with control. It's not a super deep position because we're working on the stability and the balance. So just know that if you don't feel a lot of muscular effort, it's up to you to make it happen. The way that you can manipulate your balance of your weight and your distribution of your weight will dictate how much you can feel this in your glutes and your hips. Good. 3 more. Last rep. Good. And rest. Nice. Okay, guys. Last thing in the circuit, we have a standing hip car. So this is also a lot of balance on one foot. Try to make sure that we're keeping the standing legs, hip and glute active so we're not just sinking into it and shifting our weight over to the outside of the hip too much. We want to pull that hip in and actually use our inner thigh a lot. So if you press down with your big toe side of your foot a little bit, you'll get that stability in your adductors, your inner thigh muscles. So what I want you to do is place your hands on your hips. Shifting that weight into one foot, you're going to lift the opposite knee up. Good. From here, we're going to abduct our hip, bringing the knee out to the side. Now slowly start to internally rotate through your hip, driving your heel back and bringing your knee all the way underneath you, trying to drive your foot behind you in space. Your heel is squeezing to your butt cheek. I'm just gonna turn a little bit so you can see me. Good, so we're here. And now to reverse it, you're gonna drive that heel back even more. And now start to pull the knee out to the side. So we're in internal rotation still. Then we're gonna lift the knee even higher and pull it forward, slowly externally rotating our hip, bringing the knee up toward the ceiling, and then bring it all the way back in front of you, and then lower down. Nice. Okay, we're gonna do the other side. I'm just gonna turn a little bit on the diagonal. Here we go. Shift your weight into one hip, one leg. Make sure you're not sinking your hip over to the side. Pull up out of it. Find that base of support for yourself. Now lift your opposite leg up, knee driving up toward your chest. Slowly bring the knee out to the side. Start to internally rotate your hip. Drive your knee back in space. Keep your abs engaged as you push your heel back, bringing your knee down below your hip. You can put your hands on your rib cage and feel those abs. Take one more breath. Good. Push back a little more if you can. And now slowly abduct in the internal rotation, driving your knee out to the side. Then slowly bring it forward, externally rotating your hip. Pull the knee up as high as you can. Pull the knee forward in front of your chest and lower down. Nice. Okay, guys, I'm just gonna grab a quick sip of water. Take a moment to breathe as well. Get some water if you want. Okay, so now we're gonna move through this circuit faster. So we started with that kneeling position with the movement pattern getting up and down from the floor standing on one leg. Then we're gonna go back into that little side lunge variation and then the standing hip car, okay? Here we go. I'm gonna face out this way this time so you can see me from the other side. And we're gonna go for 60 seconds with this movement pattern. I'm gonna speed it up then compared to the first set that we did. But if you feel like you need to go slower, that's okay too. Do what you can in 60 seconds. We're gonna go in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and begin. Stepping forward, ground down through that foot, drive the knee up. Reverse it, and switch. Forward, drive up, down, and then repeating, alternating legs that you're stepping up with. Trying to find that moment of stability, that base of support in your grounded foot. Keep it going at your own pace. We have 30 seconds left. You guys got it. Keep carrying your breath. Remember, you can always come back to your inhales and exhales. Just 12 seconds. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and rest. Nice. Okay. Now we're going to shift into that side lunge variation. So shift weight into one hip. You can put your hands on your hips if you'd like. Other leg is straight, butt is hinged back, chest is inclined forward a little bit. Bracing your abs, you're going to exhale, lift, and lower that straight leg to the side. Notice I'm keeping my straight leg's toes turned forward, so I'm slightly internally rotating that hip to make sure I'm targeting the outside of my glute, and that will really help me get that pure abduction of the hip. Good. 4 more reps. 2 more. Last one. Good. Rest. Woo! Straighten out the legs for a second. Shake it out a little bit. Okay, and now we have the other side. So shift your weight over to the other hip. Hinge that butt back. Try to reach back with the hips as much as you can. Finding length in the bent legs hamstring. Good. And now we're lifting on the exhale, lowering on your inhale. system here is in many things. And often it's things that go unnoticed, like the foundation of our support system is happening in our foot here. So can you shift your weight to the big toe side of your foot and feel a deeper sense of stability? One more. Good, and rest. Nice. Okay, now we're gonna move through that standing hip car again. I'll turn a little bit on the diagonal so you guys can see. Bring your hands to your hips. Shift your weight into one leg. Bring the knee up. Good. Hold here for a moment. Try to drive the knee up a little higher if you can. And then bring the knee out to the side. Internally rotate through your hip. Drive your knee back. Find your hip extension. Hold. Pull your rib cage in. Try to drive your foot back further. And then reach the knee out to the side. Externally rotate as you bring the knee forward. Pull it up as high as you can. And lower it down. Good. Turn around for the other side if you need to. And here we go. Shift your weight into your standing leg. Pull that knee up. Pull. Drive the knee out to the side. Keep lifting the knee up as you do that. Then internally rotate your hip. Drive your foot back. Find your hip extension, squeezing your calf up toward your hamstring, and rib cage drops down. Good. Take another breath. Try to drive your heel back a little further. And then lift the knee out to the side. Swivel on your hip, externally rotating, driving the knee up. Pull it up toward your chest as high as you can. And rest. Nice. Okay, guys. We're going to go through a second round of that, or a third round of that technically, with a little bit of a speedier tempo as well. Now that's totally optional. Again, you can keep it at the same tempo the whole time. But if you can, try to speed it up and challenge yourself to get your heart rate elevated a little more. Okay, so coming back down into the kneeling position. We're gonna go 60 seconds again with this movement pattern, moving from the floor all the way to standing on one leg. Here we go. In 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and begin. Stepping forward, pressing up, down, and switch. Take your time if you need it, or speed up if you can. Remember, always come back to your breath. Keep it going. 30 seconds. Can you use your exhale to stabilize your body in the various positions that we're moving through? 15 seconds. Good, almost there, guys. Keep going. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and rest. Nice, awesome job. Okay, now separate your feet a little wider than your hips. Let's go right into it. Trying not to rest as much as possible. Shift your weight over into one hip, then into that knee, and stick your butt back. Here we go. 10 lifts. Exhale as you lift. Inhale as you lower. Try to get that outside of the glute to really fire up. 6 more. 3 more. Last rep. And rest. Good. Switch your weight over to the other side. Trying to load into that hip and glute as much as you can. That's your sensation that you're going for, is weight bearing in the glute. Here we go. Exhaling as you lift the straight leg. Inhale as you lower. Good. 3 more. Last rep. And rest. Awesome.
guys. Next we have the standing hip car. So again, shifting weight into one leg. Notice if you're sinking into the outside of that hip. Try to lift up out of it. Reach your hands onto your hips and bring the opposite knee up. Good. From there, slowly bring it out to the side. Then internally rotate that hip. Drive the knee back. Find your hamstring as you sweep your heel behind you. Try to drop your tailbone down and use your lower abs to brace. Good. From here to reverse it. Drive the knee out and back. Then externally rotate slowly as you pull the knee up. Ankle comes below the knee. Pull the knee up in front of your chest and lower down. Nice. Turn around for the other side. And here we go. Shift your weight into that new standing leg. Bring the opposite knee up toward your chest. Really drive it up as high as you can. Good. And then knee comes out to the side. Internally rotate that hip. Drive the heel back. Find your hamstring. Keep dropping your tailbone down, using your lower abs for support. Hold here. Take a breath. Drive the heel back a little more. And then abduct. Drive the knee out in the internal rotation. Slowly bring it forward and externally rotate your hip, driving your knee up toward the ceiling. And then pull the knee in front of your chest and rest. Nice. All right, let's get some water. Awesome job. Okay. So we are next going to do some floor work, working on that idea of anti-rotation and taking away a base of support or a limb from the ground. We're going to be working on a side plank and a hip car variation with one hand off the floor. So it's just like the standing hip car that we just did here, only now we're going to do that same movement pattern on the ground and tabletop. Okay, so let's get to it. We're starting with the side plank actually. So from here, you're going to set yourself up with your knees bent. So this is a modified side plank variation, and I want you to get your knees in line with your hips and your shoulders. You're going to press the elbow down into the floor, lift your hips up, and try to have a straight line from your knees all the way out through your head. Now holding here, we're going to take that top limb off of the ground, creating a little more instability in our body, and then we're going to straighten the leg out, bend it again, rest the knee down. Good, we're doing that 4 more times, keeping everything else stable. So lifting the leg, extend, bend, and rest. So how does this movement create more instability and more challenge for your muscles? So changing an exercise that's usually a static exercise into a moving exercise can do this for you. Just like how in everyday life, if you're used to something and then you change it up a little bit, change up your routine, it creates that sense of instability as well. Go ahead and rest, and we're going to change over to the other side. And notice how the hips felt after that, because with all of that standing hip abduction we did and the standing hip cars, I imagine it's a little challenging, or at least for me it still feels pretty challenging to do these hip movements here in the side plank while maintaining a nice tight core. Okay, so knees are in line with your hips and elbow. Lift up into your side plank. You're going to lift the top leg up, extend from the hip and knee, bend the knee, and lower the knee down. But keep your hips up here. 4 more reps of that. Just moving nice and slow. You can point your toes or flex them up to your shin. Either way works. Keep breathing in through the nose, out through the mouth. Remember, always coming back to the breath. That is our support system for our body. 2 more. Lift the knee, extend from the knee, bend the knee, and lower it down. Lower your hips. Good. Awesome, guys. Next, we are going to move into the hip car variation with one hand coming off the ground. on the ground of the leg that's moving, and the other hand is going to come to your shoulder. I'm going to turn a little bit on the diagonal so you guys can see my hand position, but just know you can face any direction. Okay, so if I'm going to do this leg, I'm going to keep this hand on the ground and take my opposite hand to my shoulder. I'm going to brace my abs, and then I'm going to lift the knee. We're going to pull it forward into hip flexion. Abs ducted out to the side, just like we did in the standing hip guard. Start to internally rotate through my hip as I drive and sweep my knee back. Try to lift my heel up using my hamstring and my glute. Then I just bring it down, take a breath, and now reverse it. Can you keep the stability in your body as you move through this sequence? Bring the knee out to the side, externally rotate your hip, pull it forward, and rest. Good. I'm just going to angle the other way so you can see me for the other side. We're only doing one rep on each side for this. Here we go. So take your opposite hand to your shoulder, squeeze your heel to your butt cheek, lift the knee, pull the knee forward into hip flexion first, then lift the leg out to the side, abducting your hip. Sweep it back as you internally rotate through your hip. Keep dropping your tailbone down, rib cage in, take a breath, bring it down. And now reverse it. Lift your heel behind you, find that hamstring. Good. Keeping all of the weight of your upper body in this grounded hand. Shoulder still is stabilizing. Pull the knee forward and rest. Awesome. Okay, guys. Last thing in the circuit, we're going to do a single leg glute bridge. So you're going to lay down on your back and start with one foot on the ground and one knee pulling into your chest. Head will just rest down on the ground. You can bend your elbows if you'd like and push those elbows and triceps into the floor. And that just is another way to create more stability and have another base of support from the ground up. Now you're going to press down through the foot and drive your hips up. And we're holding here at the top. 20 seconds. Keeping that foot pressing down into the floor, glutes squeezing, knees pulling into your chest of the opposite leg. Keep trying to lift the hips, but keep the rib cage in. 10 more seconds. 3, 2, 1. Rest the hips down. Switch your feet. Good. And now press down through your opposite foot. Lift up into your fullest hip extension that you can. Notice how it feels to have only one foot on the ground. Ground down through those elbows. Keep holding. 10 more seconds. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Rest your hips. Rest your feet. Good. Reach your arms up above your shoulders, protracting your scaps away from the floor. And let's take 5 deep breaths here. Inhale through the nose. Exhale through the mouth. Pull the rib cage in as you exhale. Again, inhale. Big exhale. Good. 3 more. Inhale. Exhale. One more time. Inhale. Big exhale. Push all the air out. Rib cage pulls in. And rest your arms. Nice. Awesome. All right, my friends. Just going to grab a quick sip of water. Here we go. We're going to go back into that side plank variation. We have one more set of this circuit, starting with the side plank and the variation with the top leg extending. So set yourself up on your elbow. Knees are in line with your hips and your shoulder. Lift your hips up. Good. Hold this position. Now lift your top leg up bent. car variation in tabletop. And just know if this one is too complicated, you can just go through the hip car with both hands on the floor to modify, or just do your best, maybe taking a few fingers off the ground of the hand that's lifting. But feel free to listen to your body and just do what's good for you today. Okay, here we go. Taking the hand to the shoulder of the grounded leg, so you have the opposite hand of the leg that's moving. And now you're going to pull the knee forward, lift that knee out to the side, sweep it back, and internally rotate through your hip, which will turn your foot up toward the ceiling, bringing your leg behind you. Hold, bring it down, and now reverse. Keep everything else stable, just moving through the hip as the leg rotates in its biggest rotation as you can. Pull it back forward and rest. Good. Other side. Here we go. Stable arm has the shoulder right above the wrist, so find that alignment. Other hand is at the shoulder, or maybe just take it a few fingers off the ground. Here we go. Moving through the hip car. Just trying to make the biggest rotation with your hip and your leg as possible. Driving the heel up behind you, keeping your abdominals engaged and pushing out of the shoulder. Bring it down, take a breath, and reverse it. Drive the heel up behind you. Keep the leg around slowly. Pull the knee forward, and rest. Awesome, guys. Okay, next we have the single leg glute bridge. So again, just working on that single leg stability. But if it feels like too much for you, you can of course keep both feet on the ground. Here we go. Bend your elbows and press your elbows down into the floor. Pull the opposite knee toward your chest, and then press down through your foot as you drive your hips up. Holding here 20 seconds. It's an isometric strength exercise, so we're just holding. Can you keep that sense of grounding as you try to elevate your hips? 10 seconds. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Rest. Switch your feet. Drive the other knee into your chest. Press down through your foot. Drive your hips up. Good, and hold. Take your time to breathe as you engage. 10 seconds. 3, 2, 1. Lower the hips. Bring both feet flat on the ground. Reach your arms up above your shoulders again. Taking 5 breaths here. Inhale. Fill up your belly and your back space with air. Exhale, try to reach your shoulders and fingers higher as you pull your ribcage in. 4 more like that. Inhale. Exhale. Big breath in. Big breath out. 2 more breaths. Inhale. Exhale. 1 more big breath in. Big breath out. Good. Bring your arms down. Let's lengthen one leg out on the floor. Bring the other knee into your chest. Good. Kind of mimicking the positions we were in the hip car, pulling into hip flexion now passively. See if you can find that opposite length in the straight leg hip. Good. Take 1 more breath, pulling it in. And then draw that knee across, reaching the arm out to the side, taking the biggest stretch that you can here. Good. 1 more breath. fine. You do that a few times if it feels good. And then come up all the way to seated. Let's cross the legs and just sit up nice and tall. Again, finding that sense of elevation as if someone's pulling a string right from the top of your head. Take a moment to close your eyes and ground down through both sit bones. Good, and feel a sense of settling and stillness here. We got a lot of movement in during this hour-long class. The heart rate was elevated, the breath was intentional, and the instability was challenged. So there were a lot of things going on, and just take a few moments here in stillness to notice how your body feels after all of that work. Notice how your mind feels after all of that movement. And just reflecting on whether or not you felt a sense of instability that you couldn't control today during class. And just know that that's okay. With time, you'll become more stable on one foot, more stable on one arm. And these are just lessons, just like in every day, in the real world, off of the mat. There might be things that create instability in our lives that we can't control. And taking the time to observe them, trying to learn about those things, will help us to better understand how we can live in an unstable world with more clarity and more awareness. Let's take 3 big breaths together to finish. Inhaling through the nose. Exhale, big sigh out of the mouth. 2 more. Inhale. Exhale. 1 more big breath in. Big breath out. Good. And then just go back to your natural rhythm of your breath. And you can open your eyes if they were closed. Thank you so much for joining me during this hour of movement. I hope you enjoyed finding your balance today. And I will see you guys all next week. Have a